When you're drowning, you don't think about pride. You reach for whatever's floating nearby, even if it's the thing that once hurt you most. For me, that thing was Mia. The business I'd poured 3 years of my life into, early mornings, late nights, missed birthdays, skipped holidays, was collapsing. What started as a sleek, boutique creative agency had turned into a sinking ship. One client pulled out. Then another. I missed payroll twice. My designer quit via text. Rent was overdue, my credit cards were maxed, and every email felt like a threat. I remember sitting in the dark office, hunched over my laptop like a gambler watching his last chips vanish. I refreshed the business account again. Still $273.12. I needed at least $5,000 to keep things alive until the next invoice came in, if it came at all. I had already called everyone. My parents, politely apologetic, said they were barely covering their own expenses. Friends, at first sympathetic, slowly stopped picking up. One even blocked me. I couldn't blame them. I was exhausting. Then, out of nowhere, Mia's name appeared in my mind. I hadn't thought about her in ages. We'd broken up 2 years ago, messily. Our love was passionate, but out of sync. She was calm, measured, always 5 steps ahead. I was a whirlwind, chasing dreams at full speed. She used to say, "You're trying to win the race without a map." When you're drowning, you don't think about pride. You reach for whatever's floating nearby, even if it's the thing that once hurt you most. For me, that thing was Mia. The business I'd poured 3 years of my life into, early mornings, late nights, missed birthdays, skipped holidays, was collapsing. What started as a sleek, boutique creative agency had turned into a sinking ship. One client pulled out. Then another. I missed payroll twice. My designer quit via text. Rent was overdue, my credit cards were maxed, and every email felt like a threat. I remember sitting in the dark office, hunched over my laptop like a gambler watching his last chips vanish. I refreshed the business account again. Still $273.12. I needed at least $5,000 to keep things alive until the next invoice came in, if it came at all. I had already called everyone. My parents, politely apologetic, said they were barely covering their own expenses. Friends, at first sympathetic, slowly stopped picking up. One even blocked me. I couldn't blame them. I was exhausting. Then, out of nowhere, Mia's name appeared in my mind. I hadn't thought about her in ages. We'd broken up 2 years ago, messily. Our love was passionate, but out of sync. She was calm, measured, always 5 steps ahead. I was a whirlwind, chasing dreams at full speed. She used to say, "You're trying to win the race without a map." When you're drowning, you don't think about pride. You reach for whatever's floating nearby, even if it's the thing that once hurt you most. For me, that thing was Mia. The business I'd poured 3 years of my life into, early mornings, late nights, missed birthdays, skipped holidays, was collapsing. What started as a sleek, boutique creative agency had turned into a sinking ship. One client pulled out. Then another. I missed payroll twice. My designer quit via text. Rent was overdue, my credit cards were maxed, and every email felt like a threat. I remember sitting in the dark office, hunched over my laptop like a gambler watching his last chips vanish. I refreshed the business account again. Still $273.12. I needed at least $5,000 to keep things alive until the next invoice came in, if it came at all. I had already called everyone. My parents, politely apologetic, said they were barely covering their own expenses. Friends, at first sympathetic, slowly stopped picking up. One even blocked me. I couldn't blame them. I was exhausting. Then, out of nowhere, Mia's name appeared in my mind. I hadn't thought about her in ages. We'd broken up 2 years ago, messily. Our love was passionate, but out of sync. She was calm, measured, always 5 steps ahead. I was a whirlwind, chasing dreams at full speed. She used to say, "You're trying to win the race without a map." Pause. Mia looked at me the way she used to, like she could see things in me I didn't even notice. "You always lived like you were trying to outrun something. Even when we were happy, you were chasing something just out of reach." I frowned. "That's just how I'm wired." She leaned forward. "Or maybe that's how you've been trained. You've been in survival mode so long you think it's the only way to breathe." That hit harder than I expected. I sipped my coffee to hide my reaction. We talked for an hour. About nothing and everything. About the business, about burnout, about how she'd started working with a mental health nonprofit. She looked healthier, more centered. I envied her. She didn't say "I told you so." She didn't bring up the arguments, the way I'd neglected her during my late-stage hustle obsession. She just listened, and gently pointed at the bigger picture. Before I left, I reached into my jacket for a piece of paper. "Here's a repayment plan. I'll send you $500 each month starting next." Mia put her hand over mine. "Liam. I'm not your bank. I know. I just want to do this right." "You will," she said, standing. "Just promise me one thing." "Anything." "Take a walk every day. Eat something green. Sleep more than 5 hours a night. And call me, once a week. No excuses." I blinked. "That's it?" "That's it," she said. "This isn't about the money. It's about you getting your soul back." I didn't understand it at first. Mia's condition sounded like something a concerned therapist might say: walk, eat, sleep, call. Simple, almost laughable. I'd expected lectures, repayment contracts, maybe even awkward boundaries. Instead, I got care disguised as structure. That night, I walked for an hour through the city, no destination in mind. It was the first time in months I wasn't walking to somewhere, but through something. I noticed things I used to ignore: street musicians, a mural I had passed 100 times, couples laughing on patio chairs. The city hadn't changed. I had. When I got back to my apartment, still cluttered, still dark, I made a salad. A real one. No delivery, no instant noodles. Just spinach, eggs, avocado, tuna. I ate slowly. No TV, no phone. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own chewing. It felt like a ritual. Something ancient and forgotten. And then I slept. For 6.5 uninterrupted hours. That was more than I'd had in weeks. I called Mia the next day, just like she asked. She picked up on the first ring. "You sound different," she said. "I slept." "I told you," she replied with a smile in her voice. "Your mind's not broken. It's just exhausted." We talked for an hour. I told her about my walk, my dinner, how I'd started listing the business expenses I could cut. She offered no advice unless I asked for it. She didn't swoop in to fix me. She just made space. Week by week, I followed the rhythm she gave me. I kept walking. I learned how to cook 3 real meals. I moved my workspace to a sunny corner. And with Mia's encouragement, I called 3 old clients not to pitch them, but to reconnect like a human being. 2 of them sent me small freelance gigs. Nothing big. But enough to stir something back to life. I didn't tell Mia immediately. I waited until our Friday call. "You sound proud of yourself," she said after I told her. "I think I am," I replied. And I want to build again. But not the way I did before." "Good," she said. "The old version of you didn't fail. He just ran too fast and forgot to breathe." Sometimes she said things like that, simple, graceful sentences that hit like poetry. She always had that gift. Eventually, I asked her the question I'd been avoiding. "Why did you help me, Mia? After everything?" She paused. "Because I saw who you really were. Even when you didn't." "That doesn't mean you owed me anything." "I didn't do it because I owed you," she said quietly. "I did it because you needed someone to believe in you, and I still do." The silence on the line was warm, not uncomfortable. I didn't cry, but I felt like I could have. And not from sadness, but from being seen. As the weeks passed, the changes Mia sparked in me began to snowball. I still struggled with money, yes, but my relationship with time, purpose, and presence began to shift. I found myself doing things I hadn't done in years: journaling in the morning, stretching before bed, lighting candles for no reason except to enjoy the scent. These weren't habits of a man chasing survival. These were choices of someone trying to reclaim peace. My Friday calls with Mia became sacred. We didn't always talk about the business. Sometimes we spoke about childhood memories, books we were reading, or dreams we used to have but forgot to pursue. She told me she was thinking about applying for a fellowship abroad, something in mental health policy. The idea thrilled her, and though part of me felt a sudden pang of selfish fear, I told her to go for it. She deserved the world. Around this time, something unexpected happened. One of my old pitches resurfaced. It was a tech firm I'd courted a year ago, one that had gone radio silent. Now, out of nowhere, they'd reviewed my old proposal and wanted to talk again. It wasn't a massive deal, but it was the biggest opportunity since my collapse. I was tempted to fall back into old patterns, working 16-hour days, neglecting myself, skipping meals to write proposals. But Mia's voice echoed in my head. "You're not just rebuilding your business. You're rebuilding you." So I worked, yes, but I also slept. I walked before I sat at the laptop. I made time to breathe between meetings. And when I finally closed the deal, I didn't celebrate with a night of expensive drinks. I celebrated by cooking dinner and calling Mia. She didn't say "I'm proud of you." She just said, "I knew you could." It meant more. But not everything was smooth. I hit walls. One week, a client bailed halfway through a project. Another, I received a tax penalty I'd forgotten about. Stress mounted again, and I felt the old version of myself creeping in, snapping at baristas, canceling walks, over-caffeinating. I even skipped our Friday call. That Friday night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of everything pressing down. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Mia. "You okay?" I hesitated, then typed, "No." Slipped. Her reply came instantly, "Then sit. Breathe. And forgive yourself. This isn't about perfection. It's about coming back when you forget." That was the difference. Before, I believed falling meant failure. Now, I understood that getting up, again and again, is where the transformation lives. The next day, I called her. I apologized. She didn't scold me. "You're human," she said gently. "That's all you've ever needed to be." Spring arrived like a quiet revelation. The mornings were brighter, the air softer. I started opening the windows while I worked, letting the world in, sounds of birds, distant chatter, the occasional saxophone from the jazz bar on 3rd. Life felt possible again. Not perfect, not painless, but undeniably alive. And then came the moment I had both hoped for and dreaded. Mia's fellowship was confirmed. She called me in the middle of a Tuesday to tell me. I was reviewing a new proposal, but I dropped everything when I saw her name. "I got in," she said. "I'm leaving in a month." There was a long silence. Not awkward, just heavy. "That's incredible," I said. "You're going to change lives." She laughed nervously. "I hope so. I'm terrified." "I know you are. And I know you'll do it anyway." She paused. "I wish I could have been there to see this version of you emerge." "You were. Every step." We didn't talk about what her leaving meant. Not really. There was no grand confession, no romantic build-up. But there was something in the space between our words, a closeness, a bond neither of us had named. The truth was, I didn't just owe her money anymore. I owed her a piece of my sanity, my clarity, maybe even my soul. And part of me feared that once she left, I'd lose all of it. But that's not what she had taught me. She had shown me that nothing worth holding comes from another person saving you, it comes from them reminding you who you are. So when she asked me, "Can I call you while I'm away?" I didn't say yes with desperation. I said it with gratitude. "Always," I told her. The final week before she left, we met at our old cafe. The same one where we had said goodbye after the breakup. This time, the energy was different. No pain, no anger, just two people who had grown up in each other's company. She handed me a small, cloth-bound notebook. "What's this?" "Your next step," she said. Inside were pages of her own handwriting, quotes, journal prompts, breathing exercises, financial tips. Some pages had doodles. Others had blank spaces labeled for when it gets too loud. I held it to my chest. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," she smiled. "Just keep going." Mia left the following Saturday. I walked her to the train station, where she'd catch an express to the airport. We hugged, not tightly, not theatrically, but with the quiet, knowing strength of two people who'd survived the collapse and learned to stand again. "All right," she said. "You better," I smiled. And then she was gone. In the months that followed, I didn't fall apart. That surprised me. In fact, something else happened. I built. I started saying no to clients that didn't align with my values. I raised my rates for the first time in years, and people paid them. I taught a workshop at the local community college on ethical entrepreneurship. I even volunteered at a youth business incubator, mentoring kids who reminded me of my younger, more chaotic self. I used the notebook Mia gave me almost daily. Some days I answered prompts, others, I just opened to a random page and read her handwriting until I smiled. That little book became a compass. Every few weeks, she'd send a voice note from Spain or Belgium or somewhere in between. She'd talk about public health reform, or how the bread tasted better in Europe, or the way people looked you in the eye more over there. One day, she asked, "Do you think you'll ever come visit?" I paused before replying. "Only if you'll let me buy you dinner this time." Her laugh was the same. Warm. Free. Deal. But the real return, the one that mattered, happened quietly, one random morning. I was walking to the cafe, just like I used to, when I passed the mirror in a boutique window. For once, I didn't glance away. I stood there, really looking. Not at the clothes or the shadows under my eyes, but at the man staring back at me. I saw someone I had once abandoned, now standing tall. Scarred, sure. But soft in the eyes. Calm in the breath. Firm in the spine. Not a savior. Not a success story. Just a man who had learned how to live,